Let's go down to Jack, who's in the Dale Earnhardt pit.
Taking a look at Dale Earnhardt's pit crew as they go to work on the right side of the car. The sheet metal dinged in, rubbing against the tires. They're going to change all 4 tires. Meanwhile, also taking a look at Terry Labonte, who was involved. He shows the scars on the left side of the car. They removed the for the Piedmont Airlines entry. A tough break for both these gentlemen. As Benny Parsons told you, they have now gone at least 1 lap down. They're both away and back out to the racetrack, but they're off the lead lap.
And the leader, Rusty Wallace, came in and changed all 4 tires and is back out there. So he has fresh rubber on that car. There he is. Harry Gant also making a pit stop, as did Dale Earnhardt and Terry Labonte. Boy, what a break for him, though, Benny. And things happened just exactly the way they should have if you're a Rusty Wallace fan.
You're sure right.
All right, 308 laps completed. The yellow flag waves over the racetrack once again. He has just come out once again on the race, the Valleydale 500 here at Bristol, and Rusty Wallace is continuing to lead this race. In second position now is Darrell Waltrip. Third place would be the number 15 car of Ricky Rudd.
Look at Kyle Petty. Look at Kyle Petty.
And speaking of Petty, Richard Petty has come in for a pit stop, and there is some relief driving going on. Here's Jack Arute.
Behind me, you see the crew going to work on the STP Richard Petty machine. But in the seat is not Richard Petty, it's Morgan Shepherd. He's been called to relief. They're several laps down. He took 1 tour, had to come in to have the belts adjusted. They didn't fit right, and at Bristol here, you've got to stay tight in the seat.
So relief driving on the part of Morgan Shepherd for Richard Petty, and meanwhile we have a change of leader as Darrell Waltrip has gone into the lead, passing Rusty Wallace. Now Dale Earnhardt in car number 3, right behind Darrell Waltrip, is a lap down because of that spin in the backstretch.
And so is the 7 car, Kyle Petty. He's a lap down. He wants to stay in front of Darrell Waltrip. So if the caution flag does come out, he'll be able to go around and make up that lap. And Earnhardt wants to get by so he can do the same thing.
And how many times have we seen Darrell Waltrip in a situation where he's not particularly strong in the early or even middle stages of the race, but when you start thinking about the checkered flag, Darrell Waltrip is right there.
It looks like that Rusty Wallace has picked up a bad set of tires, that the stagger is wrong on the tires, that the sizing is wrong, because he just can't keep up. A few moments ago, he dominated the event. Right now, he's 5th place on the racetrack. He's probably about 3rd or 4th as far as the race is concerned, but he can't keep up with some cars right now.
So Rusty Wallace, who was looking so strong there in the middle stages of this race, is falling back. We'll continue to keep our eye on him. And Jack, what's the situation? I guess you've already found out for us, huh?
Well, Bob, Benny was exactly right. The car has developed a slight push. A bad set of tires, not really all that bad, but not as good as the set they had on when they led this event.
So Benny Parsons guesses right again, and it's a situation where Rusty would now like to see another yellow so that he can come in and get a new set of tires.
I'm sure Goodyear would sure wish we'd use the terminology of bad set of tires, because folks, it is that not the tires are bad, the sizing is wrong, and therefore it makes the car handle differently than it did just a few moments ago.
Darrell Waltrip is your leader, Rusty Wallace 2nd, Ricky Rudd is 3rd, Bobby Allison running 4th, Harry Gant is 5th, then Bill Elliott 6th, and 7th is Kyle Petty, who is on the lead lap, although he's just ahead of Darrell Waltrip. A lap down in 8th place is Dale Earnhardt, then 9th is Tim Richmond, and 10th is Terry Labonte. Those drivers a lap down, and Dale would very much like to pass Darrell here and get his lap back.
And nothing Darrell Waltrip would rather happen than Dale Earnhardt stay right behind him. Darrell Waltrip would say, justice is mine.
Reference, of course, to several incidents over the year, but the most noteworthy and the most recent at Richmond, Virginia, when these 2 drivers battled for the lead going into the 3rd corner late in the race, when both were taken out in an accident, and some sanctions leveled against Earnhardt for a while, but most of those were rescinded later. But nevertheless, Dale got a pretty good hand slapping from NASCAR.
Darrell Waltrip going up high on the racetrack already. There's only been a few laps since they've changed tires. I'm surprised to see him going up this early. Maybe give Earnhardt the inside. Here he comes, Earnhardt on the inside.
Trying to get that lap back, so if there is another caution, he can circle the racetrack and once again be up with the leader. And he smokes the tires coming off the fourth corner, gets that car sideways a little bit.
He certainly is trying. If he don't do it, it's certainly not from lack of trying, because he had it sideways coming off turn 4, trying to get by the Budweiser Chevrolet of Darrell Waltrip. And look at Tim Richmond right behind Earnhardt.
That third car in your screen is Tim Richmond in number 25, and he and Earnhardt are battling for 8th and 9th position. Both of them are a lap down to the field, but nevertheless, they are scrapping for position. Tim Richmond, car number 25, in 9th.
And they aren't concerned about the spot right now, 8th and 9th, nearly as much as they are getting by Darrell Waltrip to get the lap back.
Last year at this race, Earnhardt and Tim Richmond had a meeting of minds on the racetrack, and Dale rooting around Tim Richmond, and there is Terry Labonte and Ricky Rudd side by side.
That's for third spot. They've been doing this same thing for about 2 laps side by side. No one seems to be getting the advantage. Now Labonte has the advantage.
Oldsmobile against Ford out there for third place. Labonte with the advantage right now in the Oldsmobile and Rudd in the Ford.
I forgot Terry Labonte is a lap down. The scoreboard is showing him third spot, but he is a lap down.
Because of the incident on the backstretch. That is correct. So possession of third place rests with Ricky Rudd.
And look at Harry again go by Ricky Rudd. Just like Rudd lost a cylinder or something.
Now watch the tire smoke come off of Gant's car. Every time he goes around the corners, there's tire smoke from that car.
More so than any other car here.
Right.
He really is smoking the tires severely.
And he's been doing that for several laps. You would think that they would have tried to correct that problem in his pit stops.
But he's smoking and going, I tell you.
Yeah, he is. So Darrell Waltrip continuing to lead this race. Kyle Petty right ahead of him is in 7th on the lead lap. 332 laps make that 333 laps completed. We talked to Darrell Waltrip about his incident with Dale Earnhardt at Richmond.
First short track race since Richmond. Ran well at Richmond, but only 399 3/4 laps. Do you think about it at all, especially when you come up alongside of Dale Earnhardt at this racetrack?
Yeah, I think about it. You know, I'm not anguishing over it, and it certainly has not affected my feelings toward Dale or the way we race or anything else. But I do think about it. I don't want it to happen again, and I deep down inside, I know he doesn't want it to happen again either. So I think we both. Sometimes a bad thing will happen, and it's for the better. And this is one of those times. I think that even though it was a disastrous thing to have happen, I think in the end it'll be for the better, not only for me, but for everybody.
That's the words of Darrell Waltrip concerning that incident at Richmond earlier this year. Waltrip is your leader. He has, by the way, passed Kyle Petty to put Kyle a lap down, and so we now only have 6 cars on the lead lap. Back with more of our coverage from Bristol after these...
Freestyle skiing, the exciting new sport of the 80s. It's been called a mixture of gymnastics, diving, figure skating, and alpine skiing. A spectacular combination.
In the Valleydale 500, 362 laps completed. We are under yellow because of a spin by Doug Hebron on the backstretch. That's the reason that the field is slowed right now. The interesting thing that has come from the spin on the backstretch was this, Benny.
Dale Earnhardt trying to get his lap back. Here they come off the 4th corner side by side to the start-finish line. By half a car length, Earnhardt has his lap back.
And so Dale Earnhardt is back on the lead lap, and we are just about to go green now. The lead is held still by Darrell Waltrip with Rusty Wallace 2nd. Harry Gant is 3rd. Ricky Rudd is 4th, and here they come off the 4th corner to start the race once again.
And once again, Harry Gant got a terrible start.
Yeah, for the 2nd time in a row, he was very slow, moving up to speed. As a matter of fact, Ricky Rudd gave him a little bit of a bump there in the back end. Now let's see if Rusty Wallace has a better set of tires on that car than he did earlier.
If one lap is any indication, he does have a better set because he's glued to the back bumper of Darrell Waltrip Budweiser Chevrolet.
Rusty Wallace, a former ASA champion whose brother Ken Wallace is an ASA rookie this year, and Rusty has helped him set up the car for the first ASA race, which will be next weekend in Cincinnati. So another Wallace joining the racing game.
You know, Rusty Wallace last year drove for Cliff Stewart out of High Point, North Carolina. And Bob, this is the first race that Cliff Stewart has missed in about 6 or 7 years.
We believe since Daytona of '81, Benny.
Daytona of '81. So Cliff, we miss you. Hope you get back pretty soon.
Alugard, of course, the sponsor on the Rusty Wallace car, which is owned by Blue Max Racing, Raymond Beadle's team. Last year, this car was sponsored by Stroh's Old Milwaukee. That sponsorship has gone away, and Alugard sponsoring the number 27 Pontiac. There's the leader, Darrell Waltrip, but Rusty is right behind him on the racetrack.
Yes, Rusty Wallace's car looks much better this time than it did the last time.
We've been trying to think, at least we were when Rusty was leading this race in the Pontiac, the last time that a Pontiac won a Winston Cup race. And we now remember that it was at the Firecracker 400 in July of 1984 when Richard Petty won his 200.
Now, in a few laps, Darrell Waltrip's going to go up the racetrack as he did just a few moments ago. If Rusty Wallace can stay on the bottom of the racetrack and stick like he is right now, he has a chance to go by Waltrip.
We're watching the battle for the lead. Darrell Waltrip, who earlier in the race experienced all kinds of handling problems. The car was pushing, the car was loose, but he has held on to the lead now for several laps and is, for the moment at least, holding off the challenge of Rusty Wallace.
And he's not going up the racetrack. Maybe it hasn't been enough. We haven't run enough laps so far, but Wallace almost lost it in the middle of 1 and 2. Extremely loose.
Got a little squirrely there coming off the corner and didn't lose a position, but did lose some distance between himself and Darrell. You know, we have 129 laps to go in this race, and the question at this point is, will the weather play a factor? As we look over the backstretch and into turn number 2, it isn't looking very favorable. There are a lot of dark skies back there, so this race could be affected by weather once again. It was at the beginning. We were delayed by the start for about an hour, and then of course we ran the first 11 laps of the race under yellow because of the wet racetrack, and it could very well play a part before this run is over.
It sure looks like it's going to. You know what happened to Rusty Wallace? Looks like Jack Arute a few moments ago from the pit said that they were a little bit too tight. In other words, the car was pushing just a little bit. It looks to me like they have overcompensated, and the car right now is a little bit too loose.
There's the interval between first and second.
Darrell Waltrip is going up the racetrack right now, but unfortunately Rusty Wallace isn't close enough to take advantage of it.
We noticed a couple of laps ago, Benny, that car bottomed out there in the third turn. And there's also, as we watch the cars go around, especially turn 4 and turn 2, there's a lot of black, is that rubber laying up there?
That is rubber, yes. That's rubber that's worn off these racing tires and has blown up against the outside retaining wall. If those guys get up there, they're in a lot of trouble because that rubber is loose enough that it would spin them out.
It's like a bunch of marbles, isn't it, when you drive over it?
Yeah, there's a bump or something up there. I noticed Darrell Waltrip's car as he came off that fourth corner just a moment ago hit that bump, and looks like something's bottoming out.
Jack, in the pit area, we're watching Rusty Wallace here.
Yeah, and I do have a comment about Rusty. I checked with Barry Dodson, and unlike what Benny said, the car, they say, is still showing a little too tight for their liking. So they want to loosen it up even more if they get another pit stop.
Well, he dropped back there a few laps ago because he got a little sideways over in the second corner, but now once again is beginning to reel in Darrell Waltrip.
He is beginning to reel him in. When he got the car sideways up in the middle of 1 and 2 a moment ago, I said, well, he's too loose, and he was falling back. But right now, he's coming back right on Darrell Waltrip, just about 4 or 5 car lengths behind him.
He is indeed. As we watch the first 2 here, we'll tell you that